Hey, what's up guys, Alex here. Thank you for checking this video and welcome to the episode number 36 of the series of tutorial on how to build a premium theme for WordPress. Welcome again. In this tutorial, we're going to take a look on how to create an archive page. If you already followed my WordPress 101 series for beginner developers, you know that building an archive page is pretty easy, pretty straightforward. We can totally reuse the code of our index.php. But unfortunately, for the things that we did with our Ajax dynamic pagination, we cannot use or reuse directly the index.php because we're going to encounter a series of different problems due to the dynamic update of our URL. Let me show you what I mean. So if we take a look at our index page, we know that we are loading the first post. If we load more posts, our URL, and we scroll down, of course, to reach the container of new post, our URL gets updated with like a /page2 or /page3 and so on, so on. This is good only for the index because the index doesn't have any other pages, any other slash categories or slash tags or slash whatever other things, like something related to the archive or a specific location of our post. So it's easier for us to update dynamically the URL and to dynamically check the position of our post. But if we access one category, whatever category we created, for example, updates, one that I usually used, the first URL that we have and we are supposed to have is of course, our URL of the website /category and the name of the category. If we scroll down and we reach the post container, see what happens? Here, the trailing path of our archive gets completely stripped, and if we load more, the system will use our Ajax standard pagination and will load all the posts no matter what kind of category these posts belong to. So even if these two posts are not in the updates category, are gonna be loaded because our WP query and our Ajax request cannot recognize properly that we are on the archive section and we want to just see the posts that belong to the updates category. So we have to edit a little bit our source code to accept this alternative rule. If we access our code editor and we access our index.php here, we could simply create an if exception because by default WordPress uses the index.php, and here we could create we could use an if statement to check if this is category or if this is tag or this is post result, search result, author results, or whatever, and update the index.php. But to keep things better organized, more separated, and to not affect our index.php that works perfectly now and we don't have any problem with that, we don't want to update the code again and create more exception, we can simply duplicate this page and duplicate it and call it, instead of index, call it archive.php. So now WordPress by default, every time we access a category listing, a tags, or an author listing, is going to access first the archive.php page. And in this way, we can update this code without affecting the index.php code that works perfectly. So let's update a little bit this code. First, let's create a dynamic title that we're going to have. Of course, we have to show the user that he's in an archive page and it's not anymore in the index in the initial part of our blog post, with a simple header. And let's write a new HTML section inside this have post. And because it's a pretty long HTML stuff, let's interrupt the PHP tags and let's reopen those right away. In here, we can detect if we have posts. Of course, only if we have posts. We don't want to print weird stuff if we don't have any posts. We can write a simple HTML5 header and use some standard class to define this header with like archive-header, and I want this to be a text center. Let's close this HTML container, and inside here we can use a PHP script to automatically retrieve the title of whatever archive page we are looking at. So if the user accesses a category or a tag or an author link, this title will adapt automatically to accept whatever user action was triggered. So let's use this function called the underscore archive underscore title, and we can use, of course, two attributes here to define a before string and an after string of whatever output is going to happen in between. So the before string, I want to wrap this archive title inside an h1 with a class of page title that probably I will later style, but for now I'm going to keep the h1 by default. And I want to, of course, close the h1 tag. Semicolon. Let's save it. Let's go take a look what happens here. So if we go back again our home page, we grab whatever post, we click updates, see what we have here. So automatically the system, WordPress, recognizes that we have an archive.php page, so it's using that page and not the index.php. And because we are in a category section, it's printing category column updates because we selected the updates. If we click on aside that this is a tag, we're gonna access the same exact page that is the archive.php, but because we are on a tag, the archive title is recognizing that this is a tag aside. Let's go back in the home page, and I never printed the author of this blog post. Probably I'm gonna extend the author options in the future, but for now, just to check, if we write manually author /admin, that is my author name, of course WordPress as usual will access the archive.php and will automatically update the author section because we are accessing that, and it's gonna print all the posts associated to that specific author. But as you notice, we still have a problem. When we scroll, because our container has the different type of pagination, the different function that we created in the Ajax tutorials, here the URL gets stripped, completely gets removed. So let's update this option in our PHP code. Here, the option that we have to take a look, it's inside our class page limit. That is the one that, thanks to JavaScript that detects this page limit, it's updating the URL. Here we are checking only the page. So if we have no pagination, this is just a slash. If we have a pagination, this is gonna be /page2. We wanna keep this, but we wanna put the actual URL that we are looking at right now. So where we are in this exact moment. To do that, we have to use a PHP standard attribute that recognizes the server location and grabs the URL that we are actually looking at. To do that, let's just extend this and use another dot to connect two different PHP variables. And here let's use a pre-made PHP Global Variable to access the server information. And to do that, we have to use the $, underscore, all uppercase or capitalized, server, open the square brackets, and inside the double quotes, we have to specify all uppercase as usual, request underscore URI. This variable is a global variable PHP. We don't have to define this variable. We don't have to do anything weird with PHP. It's default assigned to PHP. So if we grab this server variable and we request to print the request URI, automatically PHP is gonna grab the URL of our current location, but not the entire URL, but only the request URI. So the request URI is the portion of the path of the entire URL that it's after the server name or the server address. So the first part is the server address. The second part, after the slash on whatever pagination, whatever pages we're looking at, are inside the variable request URI. So let's go back in our text editor. Let's save this stuff, and Most likely we will need to remove this, but let's take a look, and probably also the /, but let's take a look. Let's save this. Let's go back here. Let's refresh. We are still inside category updates. If we access our code inspector here and we access the body, post container, page limit, see, look what we have here. We have the data page /, so that means that I have to remove the initial / because the system automatically recognizes that I have this. It grabs this entire section, prints this entire section here. So let's refresh to solve this problem. Perfect. So now if we scroll and we hit the page limit, the script is not gonna update our path because our path is perfectly the one. It's exactly the same. We are not updating the path. Let's scroll down. If we click load more, of course, and we scroll again, the page is gonna get updated. So we are from /category/updates, we go to /page/2. That's not what we wanted. So we have to maintain this server request, and we have to check if we are on a category section on an archive page, we have to pass that variable. To do that, we can do it by extending the data attribute of our button to load more. So now we're passing the page, just the current page, and we're passing the admin URL. Here we want to pass another data attribute called data archive that it's going to be equal to our server request URI. So let's check here. Let's open and close the PHP tags, echo $server request URI. And of course, this button is going to have this. Let's do the same for the load previous here, because we have to pass also in the load previous this variable in the case we are loading more stuff. So let's save here. Let's access our JavaScript, because now we have to grab that data attribute and we have to pass that data attribute to our Ajax function. So let's do exactly the same that we did for the data prev. So first, let's grab this hypothetical variable. Let's call it var archive, and let's grab the data archive. But here we have to check again if we actually have the archive, because in the index page, we don't have the data attribute. So we have to check if the data attribute is not defined. Let's put it equal to 0. So it's not going to be null. It's going to be equal to 0. And we can check if we have it or not in our ajax.php file. Paste it here, and let's change if type of archive is identical to undefined, archive is going to be 0. Otherwise, archive is going to be whatever value we pass inside our button. Let's scroll here, and of course, we have to pass this archive variable as well in our Ajax. Save it. Let's access our inc folder and the ajax.php. We have to extend a little bit more this function. So here we have to check and grab with the $post variable the archive variable that we're passing with Ajax. So here we have to do two things. We have to update the WP query to grab the actual archive that we want to access, and we have to update the page limit that we're printing with the actual request URL of the actual archive if we have an archive. So let's do that by writing an if, checking the if after the query var. So first of all, let's update the query var to inject the archive listing, to inject the archive searching if we're actually searching inside an archive. So it means that we're not retrieving all the posts, but we're retrieving only the posts from that specific archive, or the category or tags or author or whatever. To do that, we have to update a little bit the WP query. We cannot write directly an array inside the WP query, but we have to extract the array. So cut it, put it inside a variable called args, and paste the array, variable args that has the array inside the WP query. we didn't change pretty much anything. It's pretty much the same, but in this way, we have the ability here, before calling the WP query, to extend or modify in real time the array of arguments and then pass the final packaged array of arguments that we want. So here we can check if $archive it's different from 0, it means that we have an archive, that we are in the archive page and we have a different type of pagination. We can extend the arguments array to accept another parameter. We can inject another parameter. It could be a category, a tag parameter, an author parameter. And here comes the tricky part, because now the archive is passing this type of value. We're passing /category/updates. So here we have to do a little bit of PHP magic. We have to explode this URL to split the first section that indicates what type of archive you're looking at, if you're looking at a category, if you're looking at a tag or an author, and the second parameter that indicates what type of search we have to do. So if we're in a category, this is the name of the category. If we're in a tag, we're gonna have the name of the tag, and an author, we're gonna have the name of the author. So let's do that by exploding this archive variable. And that sounds scary, but it's not. It's really cool and it's really easy to do it. So first of all, let's do this. Let's create a variable called archval, that it stands for archive values. And the archval variable is going to be equal to explode and open the regular brackets. This explode is a standard PHP function that gives us the ability to explode, literally split a string based on a unique parameter. So we have to specify which parameter we want to use to explode the string. The first parameter that I want to use, the only parameter that I want to use, is the /, because I know that my URL, dynamic URL that I'm passing, is full of this /, and all the variables, all the values that I need are in between this /. So I'm gonna tell PHP to explode this string every time he encounters this /, he has to create another separation. So cut every time he encounters this /. The second parameter of the explode string has to be the actual variable that we want to explode. In our case is archive, semicolon. And now here we have this archive value that is an array now, and to print this variable, we're gonna momentarily break our Ajax loading. We're gonna print all the results of this explode, but to print this array and check all the value inside this array after the explosion, we can use the function print_r, that is a default function of PHP, to print and visualize whatever value we have inside an array. Let's save this. Here we have to do something else before. So this is 0 for him. We are checking if it's 0. The problem is that this archive variable changes between a string and a number. So in the Ajax, sometimes the archive variable has a string, so it contains categories, /updates, whatever. And sometimes we are updating with a value, with 0, a number value. So sometimes this variable, JavaScript cannot detect if this variable is an integer or it's a string, and this could cause some problem to our script. So in order to avoid any problem, let's treat this string that treats variable as a string by specifying that this 0 has to be equal to a string 0 and not an integer value. This is different from the paged or the previous variable because these variables are constantly numbered. So by default, both PHP and both Ajax and JavaScript can recognize that this is an integer, but because the archive changes between a string and a number, that could create some confusion. So let's unify everything and let's maintain everything and treat everything as a string. So we're gonna see that this is working. If you don't use this, if you don't declare this 0 as a string and as a number, probably it's not gonna work. You're gonna have some issues. So let's save it for now. Let's access again our front end. Let's refresh our category page. Let's scroll down, let's load more, and we're gonna see some weird stuff here. That's the array that we're printing. So we're seeing that at value 0, the first step, there's nothing because the first step is before the /. The value 1 contains the category, so is the section. The value 2 contains the value, the actual name of the category, so it's update. And if we manually change something, or if we click on a tag, for example, simplicity, we're gonna notice the same thing. Here we have tag/simplicity. If we load more, nothing's gonna happen, but here we have the array that splits on value 1, we have tag, and on value 2, we have simplicity. And the same thing is gonna happen if we write again manually author/admin here, and we load more again. We're gonna have the printing of the array with first value author, second value the name of the author. And this is great. Now we have these two values that we can use to update dynamically our WP query. Let's go back in our source code. Let's remove this print val here, but here we can extend the arguments. So the arguments of the WP query gives us the ability to extend, to put inside the array something else before injecting all these array inside the WP query. If, for example, we wanna update the WP query and check only the post inside a specific category, we can do something like this. Args, open the square brackets, put category, and the category has to be equal to, for example, updates. If we want to check the arguments for tags, we can do something like $arguments, square brackets, tags, that it's equal to test, whatever name of the tags we have, and so on, so on. And we can extend this stuff to use the author as well. It's going to be identical. And what are we doing here is exactly the same if we were doing something like that. So comma, category in updates. This is exactly the same of this one. So instead of writing directly the entire arguments list inside the array, we are injecting this part that is dynamic inside the arguments already defined array in the category section, the category attribute with this specific value. And so don't get confused, it's exactly the same. We're just adding more attributes, more sections to our array without rewriting again the entire array. And to update this stuff dynamically with just one single string, we can just remove everything, and instead of using this stuff like manually write, we can return the two values that we have and we know that dynamically change by default based on our URL, based on where we are. So we can use the variable arc_val, as now it's an array, and access the array location number 1. Then in our case, it's gonna be or category or tag or author. And here as a value, we can return the archive value number 2. Then in our case, it's gonna be or updates or the name of the tag or the name of the author. Let's save it. Let's go back here. Let's refresh inside our home. Let's check the updates category here. Let's scroll down. Let's load more, and the posts are loading. Of course, pretty much I think all the posts are loading in the category section, in the update section. I don't know if I create another category, but let's fix that and let's check if our script actually works. So let's access our administration panel. Let's access our posts and see, yes, all these posts are updates. So we have the aside, gallery, and these two are updates and quotes. So let's change these. Instead of updates, let's put it on live. Let's remove updates, and let's remove the gallery 2 also as well. Instead of updates, let's put live as well. So updated this, let's go back in the post. So if we access our category updates, we should see now the first aside post format and right on the gallery post format. And if we load more, we should see directly only the audio post title and the standard post title. So let's take a look if our code works. So access here, we are in the category updates. Let's refresh. Scroll down, we have the aside and we have the gallery post format. Load more, and it's not working, of course. Oh, sorry, I remember I did something wrong. So here we are printing category because we are inside the category section, but the WP query doesn't accept a category value to access a category. If we're dealing with the category ID, the value accepted by the WP query would have been cat equal to whatever number of the category 1, 2, or 5, whatever. If we're dealing with the category name or the category slug in this case, the parameter that the WP query accept is category underscore name, and only in this case we can safely use, for example, updates. So we have to update this because now we're just printing category and it's not working as you saw. So let's update this stuff. We have to do another check. So let's simply use an inline if statement to define this variable called type, for example, and type it's going to be equal to inline if statement. So if the archive val it's equal, identical to category question mark, we have to update this variable to be category underscore name. Otherwise, if it's not category, let's maintain this arcval because we have to maintain tag or author variable type. So now we can use this type inside the arguments instead of this arcval1. And that's it. Now it should work, hopefully. Let's go back in the front end, let's refresh. We're still in the category updates, scroll down, load more, and now we're loading the audio post title and the standard post title. And if we load more, we don't have more posts belonging to this category updates, and this is great. So we have the final message that we defined in the previous lesson. Now we have to solve another small issue, that is the URL update, and we already have the solution for that. Now if we scroll, this becomes /page2. We're not maintaining the category updates. To fix this, let's just simply, if the archive is different from 0, we can define a new variable called page trail that is going to be equal to our archive else this page trail it's gonna be equal to nothing. And now with this exception we can safely, without any problem, without affecting not even the index.php, we can inject this page trail variable inside here before the archive. And let's remove this first slash and let's add the / inside here, because the archive is gonna have slash at the beginning and at the end, so we don't want another slash here. But if we don't have the archive, the page trail has to have a slash. So here we're gonna have /page/paged whatever. Let's save it. Let's go back in our front end. Let's refresh the category updates. Let's scroll down. Let's load more. We have the 2 posts. Let's scroll and boom, category /updates/page/2. If we access here the container of these 2 posts, we have the actual category page 2, and this is great. And now look what happens. If we load category update page 2, here we have to fix something else as well, because if you notice, we scroll down, we reach the post container, this URL got updated with category updates /page2/page2. So we are adding again stuff, and our script is not detecting, and we are already on the proper URL, so we shouldn't update this stuff. To fix this, we can simply access our archive.php and we can remove the sunset check page, because the request URL will print also page 1, page 2, page 3, or whatever page we are, because it will print the entire URL. So we don't need, only in this case, to check if we are in a specific page because we're not in the index, we are in the archive, and the request URL will take care of everything. So let's save this. Let's access back our front end. Let's refresh our category updates. Let's scroll down, load more. It's working, updates page 2. If we refresh this page, we're on page 2 still. We scroll down, nothing happens, because if we access the container here and we check where is the container, we are on data page, category updates, page 2, and this is great. If we load the previews first, let's check the container here. We are on the data archive, and here we have something weird. So we have the data archive that is category updates / page / 2. Most likely will work if we click load previews. It's gonna load the first and second post. So the system worked because with the archive, with the explosion, we are retrieving only this one and this variable. So this value, the category value, and the actual name of the category value. So this is working, but we have another problem. We are updating again the URL by adding again page 2, because we are appending entirely this data archive here in the container. So we are appending category / updates / page 2 / page 1, that is the dynamic pagination. So if we are on a previous loading, we have to change a little bit in the ajax.php to fix all this stuff. Instead of writing directly the page trail and grabbing the archive, we can fix and remove whatever trail we have with the page by reusing this section here. So let's write this stuff. Page trail is gonna be equal to / archive value number 1 / archive value number 2. And basically that's what we're doing. Let's put a final /. So we are rebuilding this archive by rewriting. We're gonna have here categories / updates, but we're doing this because this archive page could have, as we notice, also /page / something else. And we don't want to pass this entire value. We want to pass just the first parameters that we need. So let's save this. Let's access back in our front end. Let's re-click again on the updates page. Let's load more, and we are on archive, category, updates, page 2. Let's refresh, page 2 again. Finally, we are on page 2, scroll, nothing happens. Load previews, load previous post, we scroll, and it's page 1. And this is great. And of course, WordPress is pretty smart that if we reload page 1, it knows that page 1 doesn't really exist, so removes page 1 from our URL, and we have again categories / updates. And this is great. And this method that we created, of course, works also for the tags. I don't remember if I use tags for multiple posts. Let's take a look. Let's access the tags option. Nothing, only just the first one. So let's add some random tags to this post. For example, I want the Albert Einstein, quick edit. Let's add a tag called sunset. Let's update, and then let's add another tag to image post. Title, another one, sunset. Update, and this one, the standard post title, has sunset as well. So now we should have 3 posts with the sunset tag. So let's load, let's grab one of these. Sunset, we are on tag sunset. If we scroll, the URL doesn't get updated. We have the Einstein quote and the gallery post format. Now, if we load more, we should load only the standard post format, the image and the standard. These are only the 4 posts that have the sunset. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Perfect. And of course, this is working. Tag sunset page 2. If we reload this page, we are on tag sunset page 2. If we load previews, it's gonna load the previous post 1 and 2. Here we have a small problem. Our title is inside the have post. So we have to just change inside the archive.php. Let's remove this stuff. Let's remove this PHP code here and let's put everything before the post containers. And let's put everything inside here before his page as well. So even the button load previous is gonna be underneath after the archive title. Let's save it. Let's go back in our archive. Let's refresh here. We have the tag name. Everything should be made as simple as possible. This is great. Load more. Tag sunset page 2. Load more. We should have our usual beautiful message. Let's reload page 2. Tag sunset is before, load previous is after. Load previous, load, and all the posts get loaded after the tag page title. That's just great. And of course our pagination work, page 1, page 2. And if we go back in our home page, even if we updated heavily, we updated the ajax.php function and the jQuery function to retrieve dynamically this post. If we scroll down and we load the standard URL, here we scroll again, of course we're gonna have page 2, page 3, and so on, so on. If we load page 3, our load previews is gonna work normally. Load previews, we scroll and we are on page 2, we scroll again, we're on page 1 and the load previews disappears. And this is perfect. So we again extended the functionality of our jQuery function and our Ajax function without rewriting again. Another developer would have probably rewrite another, instead of sunset load more, we would have a sunset load previews, a sunset load archive, a sunset load tag, or sunset load author. Like, you can just imagine how messy and gigantic would have been this section if we didn't follow this method. But with just a couple of conditional tags to check if we are passing dynamic data attribute variables, we can update and we can extend our WP query to inject more arguments and to dynamically update our pagination URL based on the page we are currently without rewriting the same code multiple times. And this code is great. This code is clean, easy to understand, not only for us, but also for another developer. And it's easy to update if, for example, we want to change the pagination, or in the future, in 10 years, WordPress decides to update the permalink of the structure of the permalink that it uses, we can just simply update the structure once in this section here, and our theme will be ready for the future updates of WordPress without us rewriting the same code multiple times. So that's pretty much it for today's lesson. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please give it a thumbs up or subscribe to my channel. And if you want, you can spend a couple of minutes to check the support me page on my website, where you can find different ways and methods to support me, support my channel, and help me to do better videos and better tutorials for you. Thank you again, guys, and until the next lesson, as usual, happy coding!